The impact of the heat wave continues to be felt across the country. Water levels in various reservoirs in Johannesburg remain critically low. And the United Nations Security Council will convene today in a closed-door emergency session. This is on the escalating conflict between Israel and Hamas. A very good afternoon. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Auckland Park in Johannesburg. Thank you very much for tuning in. You're watching The Week Ahead. You can interact with us on social media platforms. It's at Week Ahead, and our hashtag is The Week Ahead. I'm your host, Mfundo Mabala. We start here this hour. The United Nations Security Council will convene today in a closed-door emergency session on the escalating conflict between Israel and Hamas after the militant group launched a massive multi-pronged attack from the Gaza Strip. The attack has been condemned from several quarters, including the UN Secretary-General, while countries like South Africa have pointed to the underlying conditions, including continued illegal Israeli settlements and the oppression of Palestinians, as among the reasons for the latest escalation. For more now, we bring in SABC News correspondent Mia Alberti. Mia, very good afternoon to you. I mean, the reports and images of the situation right now are very disturbing. But what is even more worrisome is Lebanon's armed group Hezbollah claiming responsibility for attacking Israeli sites. This is, of course, raising fears of a broader regional conflict. Talk to us about this.
Absolutely, and it's happening as we speak. We are seeing Israeli tanks being deployed to the border. A child from this Lebanese side has been injured by shrapnel. Hezbollah has been able to target Israeli military structures on the other side of the border, and Israel in turn has destroyed Hezbollah's military tents that the group has set up here. So we are seeing this escalation of violence. Already we have some injured. We are still seeing more deployment of troops. The rhetoric doesn't seem to calm down. Hezbollah, as we speak, is throwing a pro-Palestine rally in the Beirut suburbs, the same ones that Israeli bombed in 2006. So although most of Beirut is empty, and I think you can see behind me that there's not much movement happening, there's little to no cars and not a lot of people on the streets, in this Hezbollah suburb, there is a huge celebration going. And of course, this could be, all of these actions, even setting up this tent today at the border, is taunting the Israelis. Now, we do not know why. We do know that both Hezbollah and Israel have a military capacity to create a lot of damage if they want. So if they're not doing it now, it's because they don't want to. What we don't know is how much this could develop into. And of course, if Hezbollah continues to attack Israel and Israel attacks back, although it is Hezbollah territory, it's still Lebanon. And so they could end up involving the whole country in the conflict.
Yes, which is the biggest concern right now. If we had to zero in on the Lebanese government, perhaps for the benefit of those who aren't familiar with the issues between Lebanon and Israel around the Sheba farms, can you first put that into context for us?
Of course, I mean, we have a border that's not really a border. It's more like a buffer zone where the United Nations has been present for many years now, since the end of the Israeli occupation in the early 2000s. And so that border has never really been built because the two countries cannot agree on which territory is which. Now, in the last few months, these Sheba farms became even more relevant because Hezbollah starting setting up tents there and increasing their presence there, which of course then ignited this outrage from the Israelis, saying that this is Israeli territory. And we also saw Israel completing a wall around one of the villages in the surrounding areas, claiming the territory as their own, although this territory is still considered, well, it's not considered either of the countries according to international law. without consulting with the UN. So we have been seeing these clashes in the last few months because of this border that it's really just a scar that is etched or not etched in the land since the end of the war between these two countries.
So, Mia, has there been an official statement from the Lebanese government? Because, like you say, they could possibly now be drawn into a full-on war.
Absolutely, and a lot of people in Lebanon, Lebanese people, are saying, where is the government and where is the Lebanese army? This war is not our war, although we have sympathy for what is happening in Palestine. We simply cannot afford to have this war being fought in our land, as Lebanon is going through such an economic crisis. So far on Sunday, we haven't heard from Lebanese officials. We don't have an official statement on what's happening. We haven't heard from the Lebanese army on what's happening. The United Nations in the border region have said that they are working, they are fully deployed to try to de-escalate the situation. We did hear from the Lebanese government on Saturday. At the end of the day, they were one of the last few Arab countries to react to what was happening in Palestine, saying that they fully support Palestine, saying that what is happening is Israel's fault, basically, that they have caused this kind of violence because of years of occupation and mistreatment of Palestinian lives. And so a very strong sense of support for Palestinians, but really no mention of Hezbollah, no mention of the president of Palestinian factions in the southern Lebanon. And on Sunday, as rockets are flying over the head of Lebanese, we still don't have any statement from any Lebanese official or from the armed forces as well.
And then to Egypt, they for years held talks, of course, with both Israel and Hamas. Are there any developments on that front to engage the parties again just as the violence escalates?
So I couldn't really hear your question. Would you mind repeating it?
Yes, no problem, Mia. I'm talking about Egypt's role. They've constantly been a mediator in the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Have they perhaps raised their hand to say they'll be engaging both parties?
Yes, they have been trying. Egypt is, like you mentioned, the usual mediator between Israel and Hamas. Since the start of this newest conflict, Egypt was one of the first countries to release a statement urging both countries to de-escalate the situation, to come back to the negotiating table. But it seems like with some networks were even reported that both Israel and Hamas were literally not picking up the phone for Egyptian officials. I mean, we are talking of a full-blown war that is happening inside of Israeli territory, never before seen pictures and scenes. Israeli government completely taken by surprise. Their commanders being captured even in their civilian clothes. So it seems like Israel and Hamas were too busy. Hamas actively pursuing their plan, and Israel trying to defend itself, to think about even talking about peace. Although Egypt has said that they are available, Turkey also has said that they are available for that. But at this time, Egypt hasn't had any success in that. And as the conflict is still so active there, there's really no expectation that a negotiation or a ceasefire could happen anytime soon.
My goodness, Mia, this is honestly very worrying. It is a very fluid situation, that side. But we also understand that the UN Security Council will meet on this issue, because we already saw a statement from the Secretary General, Mr. Guterres, already condemning the attacks. What are we expecting from that meeting?
I don't think we are expecting anything. I don't want to sound very cynic, but from past occasions where we had, and we can even talk about other conflicts, but for the purpose of our conversation, for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, how many United Nations emergency meetings, Security Council meetings have we witnessed, and they resulted in anything? It seems that violence between Israelis and Palestinians is at an all-time high. It has been increasing. It seems like the rights of Palestinians in occupied territories is more and more threatened and violated, and now we are seeing even Israeli civilians, which is something that we hadn't seen much before, completely being attacked. So the United Nations haven't been able to stop any of this from happening, despite many resolutions that Israel continues to violate according to international law. And so there is really no hope that the United Nations might be able to do something. The countries, the entities that really can do something are Israel and Hamas, and not even Israel and Palestine or the Palestinian Authority. Israel and talk about a long-lasting solution, not a short-term ceasefire that will stop hostilities for a few weeks or months, and then it will reopen again. There has to be a clear will from both parties to resolve this issue. Doesn't matter if the United Nations is available, or the United States, or Egypt, or Qatar, or Iran. It really doesn't matter if these two countries are not willing to finally set this issue.
No, most certainly a pertinent point that you make there. Mia, thank you very much for that update. We'll touch base with you as the day progresses. That's SABC News correspondent Mia Alberti. More news on the other side of this break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, Tanzania's central bank has reported that the country has 4 million tons of surplus food, even as many people find it difficult to get enough food to eat. Tanzania produced 2.4 million tons of food crops in the 2022-23 financial year, against an estimated demand of 16.39 million tons in 2023-2024. Now, despite this, experts say the high cost of living and increasing food prices could affect food affordability for many. SABC's Daniel Kijo has more.
The central bank's consolidated zonal report performance indicates that Tanzania has a food self-sufficiency ratio of 124%. Despite this surplus, citizens are projected to face challenges getting food. Experts cite high transportation costs due to higher fuel prices, food demand from neighboring countries, and heavy rains due to climate change, all factors that are set to increase the price for food for ordinary citizens. Agriculture experts have advised the government to improve agricultural infrastructure like food processing center in source regions, as well as working on distributing it to regions that have not realized high harvest during the last season. Tanzania recently launched a food surplus creation scheme titled the Southern Agricultural Growth Corridor of Tanzania. It earmarked about 350,000 hectares in the country's fertile southern highlands to grow maize, paddy, wheat, sorghum, millet, cassava, beans, sweet potatoes, and bananas. The latest data from the Bank of Tanzania shows that the country held almost 215,000 tons of food stocks in the National Food Reserve Agency, a record high since November of 2015. Tanzania's supper production caters to the needs of countries within the African Continental Free Trade Area, SADC, and the COMESA regions. Daniel Kijo, SABC, Dar es Salaam.
Let's shift our focus to this story now. Liberia will hold presidential elections on Tuesday that will see 19 candidates vying to replace President George Weah, who's seeking a second term. If it goes to a second round of voting, three stand out as possible rivals to Weah: a former international football star who in 2017 won more than 61% in the second round. His election victory then sparked high hopes of change in one of the countries on the planet still reeling from civil war and disease. We're joined now by journalist and lawyer of the Association of Media Lawyers in Liberia, that's Alvani Rogers. Alvani, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Let's begin with just the environment ahead of the elections. Does it lend itself to what would ultimately be considered to have been free and fair elections as per international and regional standards?
So thank you. These elections are very critical to the power march right there. And this is the fourth conservative elections after our brutal civil unrest. There have been issues of concern raised by major opposition political parties requesting the National Election Commission to produce the voter roll as required by law. It should have been published 1 month before the election. and the major opposition political party, the Unity Party of former Vice President Joseph Boyka, far before the Supreme Court for the production of the voter roll. So there are issues and concerns about the credibility of the election. The Election Commission has complained on the lack of funding, limited funding to be able to carry out these elections. So there have been challenges, but there have been small tension in parts of like Europe between two major political parties, the current ruling establishment of the Congress for Democratic Change and the Unity Party of the former Vice President Joseph Boyka. But yesterday was a close campaign rally for the Unity Party. Today would be for the President We Are political party. So there's an issue between the National Election Commission and that of the role the court will play.
And then Alvani, on the side of media freedom, because we've seen a few articles of journalists who have claimed that they're not necessarily able to report freely. What is the situation on that front? So
there is an issue with the role of the media. The role of the media is critical. If a particular media institution report and become more critical of a particular candidate, they assume that they've been bought by either the government or they've been bought by opposition. So the role of the media is critical, where they stand, how critical they are, they've been perceived, and the ordinary voters' perception and the kind of voter appetite that we now have, it places the media in a very difficult situation. So there have been issue of some journalists being attacked. So as the Association of Media Lawyers been supported by the introduce, our role is to be there for journalists who are arrested. If they place behind bar, that we can ensure that they're released to be able to do their work. Because without the media, to have a free, fair, and transparent election becomes difficult. It will also undermine the democratic gains made as a country. Then to the incumbent President Weah, he's seeking a second term, but it doesn't seem he's as popular as he was 6 years ago, if reports are anything to go by. Some mentioning his inability to set up the War Crimes Court, which he had promised to deal with the wounds from the civil war 20 years ago. Talk to us about the issues around this particular court and his inability to set it up. So thank you. The president is going through his most difficult political battle. As you may be aware, that President Weah came from the soccer background. He was a celebrity former war best. So it became an easy ride jumping into politics owing to the fact that Liberia wanted this change. But now he's riding not on promises, but on what he's achieved. And so it's a kind of difficult because there are people who believe that he hasn't done much as a president, like we talk about inserting the war crime code, because he made mention that he didn't participate in the war. As such, he was better placed to bring the war crime, the economic war crime code. But that became a fiasco. There's been issue of corruption. There's been issue of human rights violation. There also, his supporters believe that he's done much, that he's been able to connect some roads, that he's been able to digitize the University of Liberia, the National Premier University. That he's been able, but on the overall, this election will be the reflection of what the people think President Weah has done. He has performed, and will be shown. If he hasn't, the result will also show that. You mentioned a very pertinent point, that he wasn't complicit insofar as the war is concerned, the civil war 20 years ago. So one would have assumed it would have been easier for him to set up the War Crimes Court. What exactly has been the explanation on his part as to why, after promising he wouldn't have set up this particular court? Because it seems the people in the particular country desperately want to heal the wounds, but want to have people held accountable. So, President Weah, what has been holding him back, like we generally say, a lack of political will. And that political will is because when he won the 2017 elections, he had a support from one of the warlords, it's Prince Johnson. Prince Johnson has supported him all through. And so he is considered a target when the war crimes will come. And he's from a country that's vote rich. And so President Weah didn't muster the courage all through until election year before the president and the Prince Johnson, who's a warlord and who has a huge support base, fell off. And when they fell off, he's now supporting the current the former vice president who was from the United Party, so he's no longer in bed with the ruling party. The ruling party should in terms of ensuring that there becomes a war economic crime code. Some of the excuses they gave was that they do not have the security infrastructure to be able to, because these people are influential people, that the kind of tension that would be caused, they do not have resources to be able to to set up the economic war crime code. But people said that wasn't an excuse. The international community and people around the world were keen on ensuring that people don't go out with impunity. But those were the excuses given. But a lot of Liberians knew that it was because of the support he got from one of the warlords.
Then if we look at the candidates, we understand they're 19, but it seems from the reports just coming out that 75-year-old Joseph Boakai is the most strongest of the contenders. Just talk to us about this 19 and who you believe are some of the strong ones who could possibly emerge.
So there are 19 candidates going against the current president, who's missing 20. The president is an incumbent. You cannot take the incumbency factor. He has resources that in Liberia, and getting the presidency is about giving jobs. So he has the resources. He controls most of the state institutions. So he cannot be honorated. Vice President Joseph Boakai, former Vice President Joseph Boakai, has 40 years of experience in public service. He leads the major opposition political party. He's a forerunner because a lot of Liberians who are dissatisfied with the poor governance of what they term massive corruption, and they actually, as such, they are going to the pool to vent their anger. So it makes former Vice President Joseph Boakai in a better position. We have a businessman, Alexander Kumi. He hasn't been in public service. He's well recognized, but he hasn't been able to appeal to the vast majority of the Liberian people. He have a well-structured campaign, but the ordinary Liberian people are not seeing him in themselves. And so that is another battle. We have Councillor Tiawan Gonglo, who is a lawyer. He's very respected for being somebody who can be interpreted. He's also from one of the county. He's struggling to be able to appeal to the vast majority of Liberian people. A lot of people say they see these people with integrity, that they have everything, but they believe that the former vice president has what it takes to remove President because they see him as a national emergency.
All right. Alvani, thank you very much for that. That was journalist and lawyer of the Association of Media Lawyers in Liberia, Alvani Rogers, speaking to us. More news on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, the impact of the heat wave in parts of the country is felt far and wide. Small businesses that sell perishable goods are particularly hard hit as their stock spoils in the heat. The South African Weather Service has issued an alert for extreme conditions and a heat wave persisting over the Northwest, Free State and Gauteng provinces.
As the heat wave grips Gauteng, people find ways to cope. Seeking out shade is one trick to deal with the unbearable heat. Businesses such as these struggle to get by.
Well, we don't buy so much of flowers anymore, and there's less customers because I said the flowers don't last as long as it should last. And we move the flowers, as the sun moves, we move the flowers away, out of the sun, just to keep it fresh.
Those selling food and vegetables are equally frustrated.
Yeah, I'm buying more ice because this sun, it's affecting me on ice. Sometimes I have to buy maybe in the morning when I start, I buy 3 ice. And afternoon I have to buy maybe 3 again. So that's how it affects me.
But at least you're making more money with water.
Yes, water is moving faster. Everything is getting rotten.
For members of the public, the heat is also challenging, but life must go on.
This weather is not consistent, to be honest, and it's making us sick, honestly. But right now, it's too hot. It's too hot. Even going to work, when you get up in the morning, it's already hot.
Probably has something to do with climate change, but Pretoria's always been a warm place to be. For us to keep this cool, we have to stay home, stay indoors until late in the afternoon. But now I'm telling you, it's hot. I'm sweating as well.
We've got our hats on and we've got our water in our backpacks.
Those who have to endure hard labor in the scorching heat have a tough battle. The heat wave also increased the risk of fires due to the dangerous weather conditions. Gauteng emergency services remain on high alert. Meanwhile, water restrictions and challenges in some communities make matters worse as the heat could impact people's health. The health department has urged communities to stay hydrated and be cautious of food expiry dates while these high temperatures persist, as this could lead to adverse health conditions. Patricia Fasage, SABC News in Pretoria.
Water levels in various reservoirs in Johannesburg remain critically low due to poor supply and high demand. Johannesburg Water has called on residents who have water to use it sparingly so that the systems can fully recover. The water utility says in a statement that Haldecrane, Crown Gardens, Naturena, Hurstel and Brixton reservoirs and towers were switched off last night to build up reservoir storage capacity and switched on again this morning. Johannesburg Water says alternative water supply has been arranged for the affected areas. Residents have been asked to observe level 1 water restrictions. To the story now, illegal miners are wreaking havoc in the old mining town of Pilgrim's Rest in Mpumalanga. Heavily armed Zamazamas are allegedly terrorizing the residents. They're digging everywhere looking for the precious mineral. The local police are accused of aiding the illegal miners in their operations, which threatens the heritage site.
Pilgrim's Rest, a small picturesque museum town in Mpumalanga. It was the second of the Transvaal gold fields and is now a popular tourist destination in Mpumalanga. But many years of neglect have led to a state of decay. Undocumented Zamazamas have taken over the town, and the local community is under siege. The illegal mining threatens the livelihood of the residents, and many of whom depend on tourism for survival.
The Zamazamas, because we've got the main river, of which is Mutlatsi, and the Creek River, they've now came and digging in these rivers where the town is on the left-hand side. Now, the tourists, when they come, they see all these people who are flocking in. Now, the safety of the tourism, of the tourists, and the safety of the community becomes in jeopardy. Now, our main problem is that when we try to talk to them, they intimidate us. We have went further to communicating with the police, but we are not getting any assistance. We even went further as accusing them of taking bribes, because in our community, people talk, there are a lot of stories of police taking bribes.
The locals have called on the law enforcement officers to intervene.
When the Zamazama are fighting, it affects the whole community. Some years back, they were shooting at each other. There are cases but never resolved. No one is arrested, no one is convicted.
Totally wrong. What is happening is very wrong. Our sisters and women who are these Zamazamas are married to, let's try not to sell our brothers because of we are saying the Zamazamas are our partners. By the time they leave this place will be destroyed.
Police in Mpumalanga say they are fighting illegal mining in this area, but they are hampered by some shortcomings. Apparently, the illegal miners hide inside the mines, and police are not trained to navigate through the shafts.
We have conducted several operations. When we approach them, they will run into the mountain and deep into the mines, of which we, as the police, were not trained and we are not allowed to go underneath the mines because we don't know how safe it is to be in that particular area. So, from the side of the police, we try our level best in terms of policing that. I guess it's a matter of a joint effort with the other government departments that are responsible for mining, that they should do their part. But from the side of the police, I can say we do all we can.
Meanwhile, the Mineral Resources Department has committed to combating the illegal mining.
We're gravely concerned, and as should any South African, by the spate of illegal mining. Illegal mining is a criminal activity and is receiving undivided attention of the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security cluster of government. And as the department, we are confident that working together with the security cluster, we will eventually eliminate the scourge of illegal mining in our country.
In September last year, the Mineral Council of South Africa warned that illegal mining was not only costing the country billions of rands in losses for the fiscus, had also reached levels of violent criminality. Nhlamulo Mabasa, SABC News, Pilgrim's Rest, Mpumalanga.
All right, more news on the other side of this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, the South African Communist Party is currently briefing the media on the outcomes of its three-day Central Committee meeting, which was held in Johannesburg. Let's take you there live and listen in.
Weekend of massive discussions by the 15th Congress Central Committee of the SACP. Our statement reads as follows. The South African Communist Party Central Committee met from the 6th to the 8th October during the 75th anniversary of the World Federation of Trade Unions, which held its first World Congress in Paris from 3 to 8 October 1945. Our message to the South African workers as we congratulate and express our solidarity with the world's Red Trade Union Federations is that we need to strengthen class-based anti-imperialist trade unionism in our country more than ever before. In its pronouncements, programs and practical actions, such as trade unionism demonstrates unwavering commitment to the emancipatory struggle to overthrow capitalist exploitation and forms part of the revolutionary movement. The SACP's highest decision-making body in between its national congresses also coincided with the 15th anniversary of the World Decent Work Day on 7th October 2023. The Central Committee congratulated our ally COSATU for its nationwide campaign on Friday, taking forward the decent work agenda and other workers' demands while the Central Committee was in session. Other SACP stalwarts and comrades participated in the COSATU-led campaign. In the context of the two major working class developments, the SACP reiterates its call for wider unity of the entire progressive trade union movement of our country. In the same vein, we cannot overemphasize the importance of organizing the unorganized and raising the levels of trade union density across all sectors. We also congratulate and express our solidarity with the South African Democratic Teachers Union, founded in 1990, as it celebrates its 33rd anniversary. We welcome the success of the BRICS summit that South Africa hosted in August, the expansion of BRICS to cover more nation states, and the agreement on exploring alternative trading mechanisms, including de-dollarization, are welcome developments. This is an indicator of an occurring reshuffling in the international balance of forces. The people in BRICS countries need to deepen this direction towards a just and peaceful world. Our role as revolutionaries is to drive the momentum. Our strategy for the 2024 elections is an unwavering commitment forged in the fires of determination and resolve, the advance of the National Democratic Revolution to serve the interests of the majority in South Africa. We stand shoulder to shoulder with our alliance partners based on nothing less than a demonstrable commitment to reconfigure the alliance, strengthen it, and optimize its collective impact to deepen, defend, and complete the National Democratic Revolution. This is our approach to the 2024 elections. While we have hammered out some crucial aspects of this alliance reconfiguration, such as consultations, including in manifesto review and drafting, our engagements continue on the most critical items, such as consensus on the content and direction of our shared strategy for the democratic revolution, collective leadership of the revolution, as well as accountability to the alliance of those assigned with implementation and responsibility in all key centers of power. The Central Committee further directed our structures and members to intensify the struggle for alliance reconfiguration, which is our preferred modality for the 2024 election. We will continuously assess progress as we engage in the alliance reconfiguration process. While we acknowledge the commitment expressed by our alliance partners to reconfigure and renew the alliance, we also recognize the primacy to to strengthen our own independence and capacity to achieve our historical mission as the Communist Party. We are simultaneously forging a popular left front and building a powerful socialist movement on the ground. This is a strategic imperative, not a plan B or an alternative to the alliance. Forging a popular left front and building a powerful socialist movement is an unyielding battle cry for the working class to fight for the achievement of its immediate aims and enforcement of its momentary interest, while pushing vigorously to build capacity for momentum towards an element of socialism in the here and now. This must turn the tide against neoliberal stranglehold on the neck of our economic policy space. It is an insurance for defending, advancing and deepening the national democratic revolution to achieve its true objectives. We are cognizant that the alliance reconfiguration process does not occur in a vacuum or in the space where there is no resistance. We will meet those who seek to discredit and defeat this process in the real theater of class struggle. Our message is very clear. Successful outcomes on alliance reconfiguration will not come from the boardroom engagements only, but require an intensification of the class struggle at all levels and on all fronts. To forge a popular left front and build a powerful socialist movement is therefore not in contradiction, but in perfect alignment with our mission to reconfigure the alliance. We are mindful that investing all our energies and hopes in a favorable outcome on the alliance reconfiguration only from within will contradict our principles, political policy of analytical alertness, tactical flexibility, and strategic consistency. Our political policy does not lock us in timeless exercise that do not come to fruition. It paves the way for us to contest future elections directly, besides the alliance or a popular left front and the socialist movement. Beyond the alliance engagement process towards the 2024 election, the reconfiguration of the alliance is therefore still guaranteed as a matter of struggle. If it does not occur from within, then it will occur from without. This shall be our path to reconfigure the alliance if eventually its reconfiguration does not materialize from inside. Against austerity and other neoliberal policies. Austerity should not be confused with trimming packs for senior officials or ensuring greater value for money by cutting rent-seeking or tackling corruption, important as those are. Such measures should all be part of normal, prudent public finance management, which we support. What we are opposed to, and both denounce and reject, is austerity. Among others, austerity involves cutting government service delivery and development expenditure, including redistributive programs, and withdrawing from advancing any real economic stimulus. This is done to enforce preordained fiscal ratios deemed by the neoliberal playbook to be universally applicable, no matter under all circumstances. For instance, in its letter dated 31 August 2023, the National Treasury says national departments, public entities, and provinces must stop all new personnel recruitment and infrastructure development immediately. We reject this with the contempt that it deserves. The letter expects full implementation of other austere measures by 31 March 2024. This is a don't care attitude towards the plight of our people. As we speak, there are terminally ill patients on long waiting lists because of shortages of medical doctors, specialists, other healthcare professionals, facilities and equipment in many of our public clinics and hospitals. Other patients may even die before their appointment dates. The under-resourced public clinics and hospitals have to take care of an overwhelming majority of our population. Meanwhile, those who enforce austerity do so knowing that they will go to the oligopolistic private clinics and hospitals when they need health care. The private healthcare sector is dominated by the group of three oligopolies: Mediclinic, Life Healthcare, and Netcare. It excludes the workers and poor who do not have money to pay. The exorbitant oligopolies, along with the remainder of the private healthcare sector, look after a tiny minority. Yet, they claim the lion's share of our national healthcare spending, medical aid funds being the case in point, through rebates. This comes and are guaranteed by the public sector through the Treasury. The Central Committee attached great importance to the imperative to advance full implementation of the National Health Insurance to ensure quality health care for all. We expect the National Council of Provinces to pass the NHI bill, ramping up public investment in healthcare, infrastructure and equipment, and in training more medical doctors, specialists and other healthcare professionals. It's an immediate priority. Ensuring availability of medicines and advancing state pharmaceutical companies are as critical as opposed to austerity. The public education sector experiences the same problems as the public healthcare sector. Similarly, it also needs immediate public investment attention. Furthermore, most parts of our country, particularly the state infrastructure, including water, sewage, sanitation or roads, leaves much to be desired. Yet the letter by the National Treasury says it is taking the same austerity measures to municipalities. Directly through the Minister of Finance, the National Treasury was actively involved in the last Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council processes, but they did not budget to honor the agreement. While on 28 February 2022, the Constitutional Court ruled that the state could enter into a collective bargaining agreement after calculating the cost and committing to funding it. Now, in the letter, the National Treasury says the national government departments, public entities, and provinces must cut their already adopted budgets for the other priorities to foot the bill. This is unfair and completely unacceptable. The SACP therefore calls for the following: decisive measures to address the failure to spend conditional grants to deliver government services and public goods to the people. In the previous financial year, the underspending amounted to no less than 15 billion rand, also affecting infrastructure development and maintenance. The National Treasury to find new money to fund the public service bargaining wage settlement. The government to draw down on funds the Reserve Bank's gold and foreign exchange contingency reserve account owes to it to fund the expected fiscal shortfall. If the funds are reserved for storms and if we are indeed on the edge of a fiscal cliff, as the National Treasury claims, then this is the storm. We need to access those funds. And then we are also calling for taxing income from wealth and trading financial assets, removing tax brackets for high-income earners and corporate select tax breaks. South Africa is a highly unequal society. A greater amount of tax at the top is imperative. A wealth tax and a rollback of the recent corporate income tax reduction, prescribed investment, including community reinvestment type regulations and various levies, clamping down on illicit financial flows, a resource windfall tax, and stronger mined mineral verifications to clamp down on misinvoicing, illicit activity, and associated state revenue leakage. And also to review of the mineral royalties regime to give practical effect to the principle that the mineral wealth of our country belongs to the people as a whole. A state-owned bank as a step towards a developmental state banking sector. These are some of the proposals we are saying should be considered to respond to this current crisis. The SACP is further strongly opposed to a VAT increase. The Central Committee attached great importance to the SACP's Red October campaign 2023 theme, Put People First, Fight the Rising Cost of Living Crisis. We are calling for decisive measures to tackle the rising cost of living, including the food poverty that affects millions of South Africans in urban and rural areas. A caring social development policy with a social safety net is critical to mitigate the impact of the persistent high levels of poverty and unemployment, which mostly affect black people, women, and youth in particular. We are saying that we should fill the stones to cross the river. As we build a popular left front, we should emerge out of popular mobilization, which should emerge out of popular mobilization and campaigning. It should not be seen as first the cobbling together of a variety of formations at leadership level that variously proclaim themselves left or socialist, and then only launching a program of mobilization and action afterwards. Forging a popular left movement must be grounded in a network of active struggle, filling the stones to cross the river, if you, to use this proverb. As part of the first practical steps to advance the network of active struggles, immediately following the Central Committee plenary, the SACP is calling for joint action with trade union federations and other progressive worker organizations opposed to austerity and other neoliberal policies. This should first target the medium-term budget policy statement, which outlines the medium-term expenditure framework and adjustments. Together, we need to intensify the struggle against austerity and neoliberal policies ahead of the budget speech and the budget to be tabled in February 2024. We welcome into this just struggle like-minded women, youth, student, and other sectoral organizations, as well as foundations, NGOs, community-based organizations, and professionals in their own right. For technical capacity, we also welcome into the fold research think tanks and advocacy organizations that have made findings against austerity and other neoliberal policy measures. This movement should make it a priority to fight for a review of the entire macroeconomic framework, including monetary policy and the role of the Reserve Bank. On industrial policy, infrastructure, and skills development, industrial policy adequately funded can go a long way in helping to turn around the South African economy through industrialization and boosting state revenue. Both fiscal and monetary policies should adequately support industrial policy, which must be strengthened to achieve the desired results. Therefore, the negative leverage growth in the medium-term expenditure framework for economic development and industrialization up to the 2025-2026 financial year must be reviewed. Public infrastructure development, maintenance, and upgrading are crucial in supporting the economy. This should include roads and rail and cover the entire logistics network, resolve the electricity supply under capacity crisis urgently, and expand the country's water infrastructure, including especially in the rural areas. Equally important, land redistribution to realize transformation goals and drive an inclusive growth path will go a long way in boosting state revenue and contributing to employment creation. The National Skills Fund and sector education and training authorities have a great role to play in advancing skills development and a skills revolution. We need improved performance and outcomes, including on expenditure of the Skills Development Fund. On the South African Reserve Bank and monetary policy, or South African Reserve Bank and monetary policy that a developmental role must play. In terms of the Constitution, the South African Reserve Bank must exercise its powers and functions in the interest of balanced and sustained growth in the Republic. The Reserve Bank has failed to deliver on this constitutional mandate and must be held accountable. It is strangleholding the economy through a restrictive monetary policy, that is money policy. In the context of a significant important inflation, the Reserve Bank has hiked interest rates 10 times since November 2021. It has increased the repurchase rate by 475 basis points, which now stands at 8.2%. But this is the rate at which the Reserve Bank lends to commercial banks. The interest rate hikes brought the prime lending rate to 11.75%. This is the minimum the commercial banks lend to the people. It negatively impacts everybody who relies on borrowing, as they cannot afford to buy homes and other essentials needs 100% cash at a stroke. Interest rates are part of the rising cost of living drivers and have forced millions of families to redirect more household spending towards interest rates away from essential needs. Every time the Reserve Bank increased interest rates, it automatically pushed millions of households deeper into debt without those affected even taking an additional loan. The recent utterances by the Reserve Bank Governor, Lesitja Kganyago, claiming that interest rates increases do not affect the working and unemployed poor are unfathomable, to say the least. Interest rate hikes have both direct and indirect impact on the working and unemployed poor. Higher interest rates make it more expensive to buy a home. This is especially challenging for low-paid wage workers and families who already struggle with housing affordability. As rising mortgage rates exclude them from the housing market or increase monthly housing costs, many of the affected families find themselves living in squatter camps or evicted by the commercial banks from their homes. We actually need...
All right, those are live visuals from the SACP's briefing on the outcomes of their three-day Central Committee meeting. They deliberated on a number of key issues, among them being their strategy for the 2024 election. Solima Baila, as we would have heard, saying that theirs is to stand shoulder to shoulder with their alliance partners going into the elections. But he says they're still calling for a reconfiguration of the alliance. And he says they will be continuously assessing progress on that reconfiguration program. Then on their independence as a party outside the alliance, he says they're forging a popular left front, which isn't a plan B for them, but an imperative for socialism. They've also doubled down, as you would have heard, on their rejection of austerity measures as a tool to deal with a stagnant economy. This is a long-held position of theirs that you just cannot cut down on spending in an effort to deal with an economic situation. You need to spend more on infrastructure to stimulate that economy. Well, that's an age-old debate. One wonders if it will ever be resolved or whether all parties will agree. But this is where I leave it for today. Have a wonderful afternoon further.